It's currently Inception, but I'll hide that. So this is the website, but it takes like about 5 seconds for that website to wake up. It better be turned off. And I'm going to tweet.
There you go.
What? Somebody got a tweet?
Beeps all over the place.
And so I'm going to tweet this. And so this is the URL, YouTube Tom, see Chuck Severance live. And so now at this point, it's out on Twitter. And we have no watchers, but you see my screen is going live. And then I'm going to kind of get rid of this thing because I don't want to use it I want to use as little bandwidth as possible. But a few of you can watch live if you want. So yeah, you got to turn it off. You got to turn it off. And so so one of the things I've been doing in July, because I don't always get to work full time on Sakai because I'm a faculty member and I work on Sugi and I do other stuff. And so one of the things I came up with is this idea of coding live in Sakai and working on a lot on Sakai in July. And I did get a lot done. I got a list of the JIRAs I did in July, and so I worked on a lot of JIRAs in July. And so actually, if you go into JIRA, I didn't live stream them all, but if you go and you go to the label, a JIRA label called Sakai Live, you will find JIRAs that within them have YouTube URLs. Oh, this one's that one's live right this second, so that was a bad one to pick. So when for example, some of you saw yesterday I demonstrated the CK editor and its content item capabilities. Well, you can watch me for 4 to 5 hours do that on this YouTube channel. You can watch every click. You can actually watch every curse. You can watch like every confusion. You see me with my hands on my hand. You know, I'm like, what is going on here? And so this is a thing I've been doing, and it's like the Truman Show. I mean, I hope everyone knows about the Truman Show. The show is this futuristic show that's super highly rated that just films this boring guy 24 hours a day, and nothing really happens, but everyone has to watch in case something happens. So this is the software equivalent of the Truman Show. It's sort of my life as a Sakai developer, lonely in my house. You see me sometimes in the basement, sometimes standing at my standing desk, sometimes up in my office, sometimes in my work office. And now I'm doing it from a conference. I'm doing it live from a conference. And so here we are. I'll just sort of show the viewing population of 0, although there'll be a people, so that's who we are. So what I am going to do is attempt in front of you to fix a JIRA and show you how I do it. Now,
and Chuck, let me interrupt. For those who aren't sure, a JIRA is where we keep, or maybe you should explain what a JIRA is.
Go ahead. Anyone can talk.
A JIRA is where the Sakai community keeps things that need to be fixed and ideas we have that we're working on. So the developers are always looking at JIRA saying, all right, what's next? So he's about to take
a work order. Right, it's my chunk of work, and I kind of look at them, and I keep 4, 5, 6 of them maybe, and if I got half a day, I'll work on an easier one. If I got 2 days, I'll pick a hard one, right? And so I have a style, all programmers have a style of programming. My style of programming would be best described as cave programming, like cave programmers, like when you had like sticks and walls and fire and stuff. I don't use a integrated development editor. I don't use a debugger. People like Matt, perhaps he could do live coding and he would seem like a genius, like a jet airplane in programming compared to me. I'm very old school, so I use a lot of Unix things. Yeah, exactly. That's right. I am old school, and I don't set up set up the development environments. And so I have this thing I call the Sakai scripts, which is not official, but it's my set of things that I allow that help me write Sakai code. So the first thing I'm going to do is start up my database, which I've already got started, and I'm going to go into my Sakai folder, dev Sakai scripts, trunk, no, master, I don't know, whatever it is, trunk. And so that's the Sakai source tree right there. And if I go up a folder, I've got these little shell scripts that I can start the Sakai. Gotta go up one. To start Sakai, I have a thing called start Sakai, and then I have a thing that I can watch the logs, because that's...
Matt's growing. He's growing.
Yeah, well, Matt, you can do this next time, and you can show how a competent programmer actually does this. This is a challenge to you.
Your terminal's just painful to look at.
Because it's white on black?
And it's not very colorful.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I tell you...
That's okay, Matt. That's accessible.
I know, but if it's colorful, you can process things faster.
So, yeah.
I'll break it down.
Okay, so while this is starting, and one of the things you have to do as a software developer is when things take a little while, you have other things you're going to do. So let's take a look at our JIRA. So this JIRA comes to us from South Africa. And it came to us, oh, please don't blow up. Okay, that's fine. It came to us from Duncan Smith, who's with the OpenCast project. And they've got an LTI tool. And what they want to do is, this just came in. Originally, this is all the JIRA said. Currently, Sakai portal listens for iframe by a post message. A little later, he said something like, oh, this also was the original part of the original one. For a particular use case, we want the LTI tool to be able to request the outer frame. So we wanted to make it so the outer tool can refresh the frame. And I said, could you have a little more detail? And then he put all this stuff in. But this is currently unreviewed. And so I want to bring Neil up for a second and talk a little bit about what you do when you see fresh ones.
So, yeah.
Come on up so they can hear you and they can see you.
Oh, okay. So,
JIRA triage.
Yeah.
JIRA triage.
Talk about the meeting.
All right. So typically, it's interesting because I don't even recognize that unreviewed button. So I'm puzzled by that. Typically, when a JIRA first comes in, it comes in as awaiting review. The status where it says open here, that would say awaiting review. And what that means, that's the first step in the process for the community. And we have a Monday afternoon call where a group of us get together and we look through all the new issues that have come in, and we look at the ones that are awaiting review, which means no one's looked at them yet. And what we look at them for are things like, do we understand what they're talking about? And do they have enough detail so that we can just open them? And then we also look at the priority. If you look here, the priority says major. By default, when you open a new bug request in Sakai, it's major. But we want to say, well, is this something that really affects users? Is it really going to hurt students or really make instructors' lives miserable? Maybe we need to make it critical, or highest level is blocker priority. And blocker priority means we will not release Sakai unless this thing's fixed. So that's something. And sometimes we do little things that are blocker priority because we don't want it, because we know they're easy to fix and we want to kick them out. So that's kind of the process. Then we open it up. For something like this, I think some of us would read it, and if Matt was on the call, he'd be able to help us out. Otherwise, we'd say we don't understand what this actually means, right? If we saw currently Sakai portal listens for iframe resize requests via post message, we'd go, okay.
I don't know why that's a bad thing.
We don't know why that's a bad thing. So if we were reviewing it, we might put a comment on there. We might not open it up. We might leave it awaiting review, and ask a question. Could you explain how this impacts the users? Could you add some screenshots in, or could you do a little video so we know what you're talking about? But if we see it something like, oh, it's an LTI thing, and Dr. Chuck has already kind of taken it and he's already put comments on it, we say, oh, Chuck knows what they're talking about. Let's just open it. So that's kind of how we.
He's already assigned it to himself under default, and he's changed the type. The type is usually a bug, or we actually don't like task as a community because it doesn't say whether it's a new feature
Right.
or bug or whatever. But since he's assigned it to himself, he considers it a task for himself. He might be using that field. So I think as a committee, we should just leave it alone and say, Dr. Chuck has got this.
Yeah, we do. Laura's exactly right. We really prefer things to be labeled either as bugs or feature requests. That makes it a lot easier for us to understand the intent. And I won't take
Is this a feature request?
I don't know. Is it?
I mean, it is a feature request. Is there a way for me to say that?
Yeah.
Not anymore. Okay.
There is a way. I can move.
You
it.
can
We
do it.
can do. I can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can
I
do
can
it,
move
but
it.
not
I
me.
can move it. So, and that's the other thing is, don't worry if you open a JIRA and you do it wrong. It's okay because. Well, no, we can actually. We'll just fix it. Like if it's not complete enough, we'll ask for more information. If it's labeled incorrectly or in the wrong place or the wrong component, we'll just fix it. So just get it in there and don't worry about whether you do it right or not. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, Neil fixes a lot of these things. Neil asks for a lot of clarification. This one I happened to see go by because it said LTI, and I happened to be searching for LTI JIRAs, and I saw it, so I jumped on it.
And I'll just say one more thing, and
Yep.
I know you're on a tight timeline to fix
Yep.
it. We also ask for test plans. So if we don't see a test plan, we'll usually ask for a test plan, which is right here. And that way, when the JIRA is complete, we'll know how to run through the steps to see if it's actually been fixed, rather than the developer just doing the testing.
Yeah, I'm going to have to invent the test plan while we're working right now. So, okay, so this, so for me, I don't work all the time, and this code base is a million lines of code, and it's in different languages. And so the first problem I have is, like, what file do I have to change, or what major upper level directory do I have to change? And so so I got to figure it out. Now I know that most of the work that I do with basic LTI is in this folder called basic LTI, and then I've got like the basic LTI tool, the services, the provider servlet. It's all in here somewhere, and I know that that one of these, basic LTI portlet or the web iframe protocol, but here I got a patch. This guy sent in a patch, which is like super cool. And so I was like, oh, this is his theory on how to fix this. And it turns out to be right. So this one's going to be really easy. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to go into basic LTI portlet, and I'm going to find IMS. I'll just sign start.java. See, I know a lot of Unix commands because I'm old, and so this is way better than like right-clicking on stuff. And then I use the visual text editor. There's some color for you, Matt. So we got some color to make you happy. And I mean, I even know what line it is. So like right around line 283, oops, that's right. Oh, look, okay, so I got some JavaScript. It's being printed out. And he's even got me some JavaScript here. So I'm going to put this JavaScript in. He's got 3 lines with little pluses.
For those of us who are also watching the live stream, we don't really see this screen on the live stream.
What? This is the live stream. The live stream is not showing you that. What is it showing you?
It's showing us the tool.
You're behind. You might be behind. Let's not have too many people watching, right? So there might be lag, but there is at least 15 seconds of lag. So it's always behind, or it hangs. Hopefully, at least 1 or 2 people watch. So if I hang, then it's worse. Okay, so it's like after this \n there, which looks like this \n here. And see, I copy and paste, but the diff guy puts those in. So I got to get rid of the little pluses, put the pluses in. Now, one thing when you're developing with Sakai, so I'm done here. So I can go into this folder, this basic LTI portlet folder, and this is where I'm at. And Git is really cool because I can say git status, and it tells me which file I've changed, and I can say git diff, and it tells me the modification, and that looks pretty cool. Yeah,
So what's in
and like, did I really edit the right file? Am I even in the right place, right? And this looks pretty good. It looks like I'm in the right place. I'm not going to make a mistake on purpose, but I probably will make mistakes. And I've got this little script. One thing about Sakai when you're developing is how long it takes to sort of, like in PHP, you edit the file, hit refresh, and it's instant. In Sakai, it sometimes takes a while. But I'm actually, there are some of the parts of Sakai can be recompiled and hot deployed without a full restart of Sakai. It takes about 60 seconds to restart Sakai. This was a tool, so I only compiled the tool on down, and that actually is capable of hot deploying. So my tool now, right now, it just redeployed this WAR file. WAR is a chunk of Sakai, basically. And so now I can go log in on Sakai. And I have Sakai running on localhost 8080. And
By the way, let me interrupt that. What that means is he's actually downloaded Sakai and he's running it on that little computer right there.
yeah.
Not the big computer that's alongside, but the little computer right there.
Yeah, it's on localhost.
Yeah.
So I'm going to log in. I'm going to try to get to this as quickly as possible. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to go into worksite setup. And actually, I'm just going to go to Mercury. And I'm going to add a, because you got to, and so one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm effectively reminding myself what I'm going to write up when I give up a test plan for this, right? So I'm like, how do I get to that code? And I cause myself to see what's going on. And I have to find the external tool guy, put the external tool guy in. So now I should have. And so now I got this little external tool test guy down here. And I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to point it at http:// this one. So I also, on my local drive, have a copy of Sakai's unit test for LTI. And this way I can actually edit this code too. Okay, and I don't need much anything else here. Let's just hit it. Okay. And so now I've got an LTI tool inside of an iframe. And so now I want to first verify that that new JavaScript is in this frame. So I'm going to do a JavaScript inspect element, which is going to allow me to see somewhere in here, just the main content. So somewhere in here, it's deeper than that. Here we go. Come on, dig down, dig down. More stuff. Oh, portal chat. That's probably too much. Oh, it's in here. Maybe it's this. Oh, and there's some nav and the body. There's the iframe, and here's some JavaScript. And now this is starting to look familiar. And look at that. This little bit right here, that was the JavaScript that I added. And so this feature is now in my running Sakai. Now the problem is that this will be actually probably harder than actually fixing the feature, putting the feature in. I got to go to my PHP now. And this is my PHP testing engine that I have for Sakai. I have running this in a PHP hosting environment. And I don't know, somewhere in here I probably got some testing code for postmessage already. Let me see. Yes, there's a thing called resize.htm. So I got this thing called resize.htm. So for those of you who don't know what postmessage is, the way the web works with iframes is the outer navigation is coming from one domain, and the stuff inside the iframe is coming from another domain. And in order to protect, like your Sakai grades, the browser puts like a wall around that iframe if it's coming from a different site. But this Windows post message is kind of like a little tiny hole through the wall, meaning if the outer page registers its willingness to listen, and the inner page sends a very specifically formatted message, then the outer page can do something only when it feels like doing it, right? So the inner page cannot take control, but the outer page can. So let's see. We need to, this does height changing. So I will do this. Oops. This does a height change. So I'm going to make a little thing. So I'm going to make a JavaScript function now. Call this baby ref. Oops. Yep, I copied that little function, but I don't need anywhere near. Yeah, I don't need any of that. Oops. Okay, so what was the name of that thing that he suggested? Where was it? Oh, I'm in the wrong JIRA.
You're the other example.
Now let's just look at his diff. LTI page refresh is what he wants. So now I have this thing that's running on my local host on port 8088, Sakai API test, and this is, for now it's called resize HTM, and it refreshes this is sending the message, not refreshing the page, it's sending the message. This is not in the iframe. So now I got to change my Sakai and edit it and have it go to that URL instead. All right. So I'm going to save that. So now this is in there, and so this hopefully will send a message to the JavaScript that's living out here, and it will cause it to refresh itself. Dang. So, view JavaScript errors. At home, I probably would have swore, but I'm at a place I'm not supposed to swear. So, sometimes I get very angry at, like, if somebody else has done something that has, like, broke my stuff. I'm like, now I got an hour to figure out how they broke my stuff. Okay, so we're in resize line 29, and I did not do this on purpose. This parameter, I don't need to send the size of the height of this thing. So I had to fix that. So now I should be able to, that was just a mistake in the JavaScript that I wrote in my tester. And so now I should be able to refresh this myself. And now I'm going to do, so I'm not going to be so cocky this time. I'm going to watch the JavaScript console and move this down. So this is the console of what's going on in the browser as the pieces of the browser are talking to each other. This is not, I mean, this is Sakai code to some degree, but it's not the server code. So I'm going to clear this out so I get only the messages I see, and I'm going to hit the refresh button. And worked, and worked, and worked, and worked, and worked, and worked, and worked. Okay, so that one worked. Okay, so that worked. So
How can we tell it worked? Yeah. I see red. I don't know.
Well, no, those things were there before. It worked. It worked because it blinked and blinked and blinked, right? Yeah, that's some other problem that's been there. We'll probably get those fixed eventually, right, Matt? But it works. So clearly it refreshed the outer ding thing, but it redisplayed the thing inside. Now, we could tell them to do a parent dot refresh, probably, maybe. I don't know. But I'm not opposed to it. So I think, how much time do I got? So I think this is great. I'm done, right? And I'm like, wait a sec. Lessons does this too. Right, because Lessons puts up LTI tools and iframes too. Okay, so now I got it fixed in the one that's the external tool, but the Lessons tool is different code. So now I got to go into Lessons. And no, he didn't. He didn't. I just kind of know, oh yeah, I built this code in the first place, and I also built it in Lessons. And I'm like, oh crap. Now Matt will tell you, and I will tell you. So I can kind of walk away from this right now. So
you could say done. But,
I could say done.
But that'd be immoral.
Well, I don't know. Immoral is like a strong term, but the problem for that is the way I think about it is it's going to come back and bite me.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's just a problem that's going to happen later. Like, hey, you fixed it here, but you didn't in Lessons, and what we use at South Africa is Lessons, and you didn't, and he might not even know when he put the patch that it was going to fix the thing that they might just use this in Lessons all the time.
And you might be thinking, now, would they break this for?
Yeah. And so, but at least I got my unit test working. So now I go into Lessons.
And it's still only locally. If it's still locally.
Well, yeah. We got to get all that figured out.
Into the Sakai there.
No, we're nowhere near getting into Sakai because I got to figure out what's going on in Lessons. So I got to go up into some higher folders, and now I have to go into Lesson Builder. And so I hit L tab, and it works a lot better. Thank you for that, though. So the first thing I got to do is I'm like, this is not my code. This is Chuck Edwards' code. And I just never remember. I got code in here, but I never remember. So there's this wonderful command in Unix called grep, the generalized regular expression parser. And I'm like, I put some post message code in here before. So I'm going to do a grep -ri, which says ignore case and do recursively go through every file and just look for the string post message, because that will give me a clue.
It's kind of like a special find.
Yeah, it's like a find. It's just like a search. And I ignore case because I just find me something, please. And so give me a God damn it. I hope I fixed this. Oh, I did swear. Now you see I'm lost. I can't find it. I can't figure out where I'm at. There's just too much or too little. Hang on. Let me. Yeah, but Matt, you can do this and show people how this should be done. So I'm going to do this. And I'm looking for something that's close by. LTI frame. Let's look for frame resize. And now my brain, my brain is panicking now because I'm thinking, did I even do this in lessons? And I'm not making this up. I'm panicking right in front of you. Oh, and I'm less panicked. So because it wasn't Windows postmessage. But whatever. Now I've got myself a clue. And so there's all this snapshot stuff. That's actually part of the compile. So I got this little thing to throw away all the snapshot stuff. And so now I see some files. And I'm like, okay, this is good. Oh wait, okay. So the BLTI picker, that code is the part that's my code. So I don't worry too much about this. I think the show item code is the code that matters. So now I can say, oh, and it's in a tool. So that's cool. So I go down to the tool folder, and that means I can recompile this without having to start and stop all of Sakai. And so now I can edit the file, source web app show item.html, and this is a completely different display technology. And this is a frame resize. And so this is pretty easy though, because now what I can do is I can go back to the code, basic LTI, and do a get status, and then I can edit. You'll notice it notices that I've changed the unit test as well, and I can do a frame resize, and I can take page refresh. Grab this code right here. And it's going to be completely different, but I'll just hack it into place. Okay, so I'll put it in here. And so it's like that. Yeah, there's just a different coding style here. It's where the one was in Java code. This is in a template, so I didn't have to put all those quotes and new lines and stuff. Okay, so now just carefully look at that for a second. That feels pretty. And I didn't copy the so I think I'm okay. So now I'm going to compile the new lessons. It's not compiling all the lessons. Oh yeah, nothing's happened outside my local box. Tree falls in the forest, nobody hears it so far. And so this is running, and it's grinding. And the first time of the day, it downloads a bunch of stuff. So this is taking a few seconds longer than it normally would, but it's almost done. Yep, now that's compiled successfully, and you see it redeploying itself. We'll see, sometimes lessons is a little funkier than others, and so we'll see. If lessons blows up, then I'll have to start and stop Sakai. And it has to do with how we construct the in-memory version of in-memory stuff that's in Sakai when it's running. Do I have lessons? I don't have lessons. So let's add lessons. And this is why it's EdTV. I'm showing you something that's happening at light speed, but if I'm more confused, the confusion lasts a lot longer, and you're watching the whole confusion. Okay, so now I should have lessons, and so now I'm going to add content. I'm going to add an external tool, and again, what I'm also thinking as I'm doing this is how does the test plan work, right? And so I'm going to add a new. I didn't call that one. So I'm going to make a new tool, install an LTI1 tool, tester. HTTP, nope, / localhost. Oh crap. What is the name? It's localhost. Colon 8888 / Sakai. Okay, so there we go. That's my test harness. That's part of Sakai. Actually, no, I don't want to do this. I want to call this resize.htm. Because that's the file. The key hardly matters because it's not even an LTI tool. Secret is secret. I'm just throwing up a URL so I can test it as quick as possible. Okay, so that's there, and so this should be done, and then I should go back to lessons and install that guy, add external tool, and this test guy is now done. Boink. Okay, now if all goes well, I shouldn't do this, and now I have an outer frame. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig through the outer frame. Well, how about we just try it? I could like verify that the JavaScript's there, or I could hit the freaking button and then it would work or not work.
Let's see smoke open.
What are you expecting to see when you hit the refresh? Sure, I understand.
I'm expecting the whole frame to refresh. Is lessons in an iframe right now? Matt? It's
Isn't it like Portland Bob?
You can inspect. You can do a JavaScript inspect and find out what's in that.
I'm going to do a view page source instead, and then search for iframe. Is lessons in an iframe?
It might be putting its content like that.
Oh. Oh, but that's my iframe. This is the outer thing. Okay, so let's do this. Maybe it's just happening too fast on my computer. Maybe the exact right thing is happening.
I don't think lessons is, but like if you go to like something like where it says return to lessons, the content that you need to return to is part of it.
So you think if I inspect here, I will find myself in an iframe?
Like you can inspect down the testing, like you click the testing, LCI.
Yeah, well, testing is definitely an iframe. I know that. The question is there another iframe?
I'm saying if you look at the testing and then you go up a layer. I mean, and then yeah, just move it up a little bit. Yeah, there it is. So all that's an iframe.
That's the iframe that I expect.
Content 30, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the iframe I expect, and that's got the little event listener right there. And this, but the question is there another frame up here? I don't think so. Maybe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a network. I'm going to watch the network, and I'm going to check if the moment I hit the refresh, if the first thing that hits is this whole URL. Then I'm happy at that point, because that's really what I want to do is effectively the same as what would happen if I hit this refresh. And I'm just surprised that it doesn't blink more when I hit that. So refresh. So now I got to go up here and I say show item. Okay, well I think it's refreshing the right thing. I'm pretty sure. And I can't find an iframe within an iframe, which is what was scaring me.
The response is the full page.
Yeah. Okay. So we're good. So I think this one is good. And so now we're going to submit it for review. And who knows? Maybe I will have screwed up. So, what's that? We have a review
Yeah,
process.
so just to, you're as a coder are sort of like
I'm
gonna
pretty
tell
happy.
you're coding, and now you're gonna say, all right, everybody, I think I've got this one fixed.
Yep. So I'm going to say get status to try to remember all of the things that that I've worked on. And then what I do is I do a git diff to kind of code review. And I'm looking for all kinds of things. I'm just looking for these are all the changes. And so this is kind of running backwards. That was the change to the unit test. Change to the unit test. That was the change to the external tool. And then this is the change to lessons. And that all looks pretty good, right? Sometimes there's like extra spaces or things don't line up because of tabs versus spaces. And I go fix all that stuff. But that looks pretty good. And I wasn't, you know, I was working in code that I kind of had seen before. So now it's time to submit what we call a pull request. So none of us change the Sakai source tree just by changing the Sakai source tree. So if we go to the GitHub for Sakai,
Is that console.log in your test harness?
yes, the console.log is in the test harness. Oh no, this console.log? No, that's in production Sakai.
Yeah, we usually protect those with the, you know, we have the window.console double edge.
Okay.
I guess that's old code.
That's my code. What?
Yeah,
Console.log revive.
So that's an interesting question. So that's an interesting question. I see typos all the time. And I wonder if it's better to fix the typos, and that distracts to some degree of what the change was, right? If I go through and fix some spacing or fix typos, and you're like, what's he doing here? But what's your thought on that, Matt? Should I be fixing that right now?
It's better to fix the typos. And just in this commit. Like, there's this class I wanted to fix. It's like the enrollments, something with enrollments, but it's a class that spells wrong.
Yeah, that's painful.
It drives me crazy every time I see it. I want to just rename that class.
Okay, so, but this is the kind of thing that happens while I'm reviewing, even though my inner monologue Matt would say something different than my inner monologue Chuck, but that's okay. We'll pretend that I am inner monologue Matt for now. And he was complaining as I was doing review on this that
also is potential because if somebody else is trying to find that, they're like review or
right.
They're trying to do a find, they can't find it, and they're like, well, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's like copy and paste everything.
Did I have my I before E right?
I before E except after C. I think that's right.
And I assume Matt wants this too, right?
So in the console, we usually do window.console double A console.log.
I have to like write. Sometimes I have to write things.
Or just in case, I think most browsers are probably safe with it now, but you don't want any like JavaScript errors.
Okay, so I did some review before I sent it, and we came up with this stuff. Now the next thing I do is get diff. I'm just going to make sure I got it right. And now I'm going to recompile it because I'm not going to put a thing up now that I didn't compile because that looked like a pretty safe thing that I did, but I'm going to go into basic LTI portlet, and I'm going to recompile this, which will be faster, and I'll clear this is my Sakai log, this is my compile log, that finished, and now it's going to redeploy, so that's how quick. Now I'm ready to go back to Sakai. Now what's cool about it is I've already got the test in place here. So I just go to this button and I press this and it worked, right? So I kind of didn't introduce any errors in that little tiny fix that I just put in, right? Just safer to compile it, because I have the test in place. I'm going to have to write a test plan, but I'm in a hurry because I only have till 17 more minutes. So I'm not going to write the test plan. I'll put that in later, but I know that, they'll get bugged for a test plan, and I've got the test plan in my mind, and I can put it in later. Maybe I'll type it in a second. We'll see. But, because I want to show you some other stuff too. So now, there is several copies of Sakai out there. There is the official copy of Sakai. And this is the gold standard, right? This has got master, this is the trunk, the nightly servers built from this twice a day. And if I put something in here, it's in the nightly server within 12 hours.
Okay, now are you talking about 11?
12 in effect, right? So we're working on master. Now there's another thing I'll show you where we can decide, please also put this in 11. So by default, when I'm changing something, I'm changing 12. And I can say, I think it's Earl right now that's pulling stuff back to 11. There's a place in the JIRA where I can say, man, this one is really important. And I'm going to ask, I go right here, and I go
Yeah, I just didn't know which one.
11 status.
right there. And so if I change this to 11 status to merge, that is a signal to our branch manager, Earl, who does 11x. And if I say merge it, then Earl will push this back into 11, and it'll come out in a later 11 dot.
After it's been two-way tested.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
assuming everything was
Yep. Yep.
ready.
And I can debate with myself whether this is critical enough, because I personally don't think this is critical enough to bother Earl about. This is nice to have, but we'll see. And maybe Duncan will say, hey, I got to have it in 11 or something. We figure it out, right? I'm more interested in just getting it in nightly, testing it in nightly, verifying the thing, because that's also a prerequisite.
This is where you will be.
Yes, I'm working in 12, basically. Yeah. So this is the gold standard, and I'm not allowed to modify the gold standard by myself, and we have these things called pull requests. And I also have a complete copy of Sakai that's mine, so CSEV Sakai. And the one I've been working on is my own local copy. So if I do a get status, those are the things I've changed. There's these things called branches, and I can do a get remote -v. Oop. And this tells me the version in the cloud that I am about to work on. Now, everything I've done so far has not really done anything to the cloud. And I'm about to submit this to my copy of Sakai. So the first thing we do is we do what's called make a branch. And so I have sort of the main thing, but then I have these branches, one for each JIRA that I make. And so now I've got to go back and look at the JIRA that I'm working on, SAK-32725, and I have to say, don't work on the master variant of my thing. I want to do a create of a branch. So I'm creating a new branch in the Dr. Chuck copy of Sakai.
That's specific to this thing.
Well, it's about to be. Right now it's empty,
Right.
but it's the next thing I'm going to do. So if I do a get status, I'm on the branch in GitHub, and now I'm going to say git commit. A bit of bad beef, I think.
And that is a standard for how like all developers do this, right? They all
Yeah, yeah.
create a branch that's the JIRA ID.
It really helps to isolate things.
Oh, it's really isolated.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, but that's the idea.
Yep.
It's not that
Because we have to roll it back. I mean, I've looked at things that happened 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm like, who messed with this line of code? And if there's like a million things and I got to undo something, I mean, it's super multiple linked back and forth, and you'll see all this.
A better perspective on exactly how very detailed, how exacting this.
Yeah, we're only halfway through.
Right.
So git commit basically says, update the local copy of my Git repo on my hard drive, and we have to name these things very specifically. Add LTI parent. See, you will notice, and Matt will notice, that I typo in this moment a lot. I'm apparently it's not getting syntax checked, and so I
usually just copy from the JIRA.
Oh, okay.
I copy the title from the JIRA.
But then it's too long, isn't it?
I know.
Okay, so just do that. That'll save me typing. I always screw this up. I'm always like, I'm going to send it in. I get to go, right? To work or wherever I'm going after I'm done with this. And so I typo in this. So what's happened now, when I say this, there's a copy under Dr. Chuck in the cloud, there's a copy under Sakai in the cloud, and there's a copy on my hard drive. And all I've really done at this point is updated the entire copy of Sakai that's on my hard drive. And now I have to say git push origin, and origin is the copy of Dr. Chuck's copy of Sakai in the cloud, and then upstream is the Sakai copy in the cloud. And then I have to tell it the branch, which I changed my rule here. I have to push it to create a branch in the copy of this that's in the cloud. Git push origin SAK. So now it's actually uploading. One of the cool things about GitHub is I could do everything I did on the airplane, right? And now that what I just did was not on the airplane, that now is sent. So if I go over here, my copy of Sakai in the cloud has been updated. And my copy notices. Yeah. Yeah, I have little cheat sheets. That tell me how to do this when I haven't done it for a couple of weeks. So what happens is now GitHub in the cloud has noticed that I've done this thing. And the common thing to do after this is to say, please submit my changes to the master super in the sky. So I can click this button that says, go compare to the master copy that you were born from and send a patch back to the master copy that you were born from. So when I hit this button, now it appears, you'll see that we have 38 pull requests on the queue, and we go through every Tuesday morning, we go through all these things and try to get them in. And I can put a message in. I never put a message. Matt, should I put a message in here? No. Nobody cares. Okay, so now, if you'll notice, my URL's changed. I am in Sakai project. I'm in the master world, right? And if you go over here and we hit refresh, you will see that there are now, the in-cup queue of things for everyone else to review is now 39. Okay, and there it is. And so at this point, Matt can look at it. I can request review, and I'll request that, I'll say, I think that Jones is a good guy to review this. Matt's too busy to review, so I'll also stick Earl on here. Earl always loves reviewing stuff, right? So, so I just, it's a tiny little 8-line change, but I requested 2 people to review it. But you get the idea. And then Matt will get an email. So one of the other things that happens is that we have this thing called Travis, which every time someone submits a pull request, Travis grabs a copy of the after the patch was merged, that grabs that after patch copy and compiles the whole thing and tries to start it and make sure that I didn't break it. So this is a test. And this is running on a server that we don't pay anything for, right, Matt? That's free, right? Travis is free. And so this is going to take about 35 minutes before I even know if my patch passes the most basic test of not having profoundly broken Sakai. Doesn't mean it's working. It just means that I didn't profoundly break Sakai.
First do no harm.
First do no harm. Yeah, don't accept a patch that does harm. The Hippocratic Oath of GitHub and Travis. And so I'll stop there and see if there's any questions, and then I'm going to switch to another topic, and we only got 8 minutes, but it'll be any questions? Okay, so then what I want to do is I want to just switch gears and fast forward, okay? So I want to fast forward to go, now I'm going to get rid of all this stuff. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm going to have Matt, why don't you come up, Matt? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a pull request from a few days ago. Yes, well, Matt's coming up. Yeah.
I work with GitHub, but I don't understand the theory of it.
Yeah.
So when I'm hearing you say pull request, to me that sounds like push.
It sure does. I don't know why they call it. Well, it is I think it would, the best way to explain it, and Matt's smarter than me, would be it's a request for the owner, true owner, to pull from you a patch. I think it's please pull. I think that's the way to think of it.
Okay.
It's a request to pull that patch, yeah.
I've always thought pull meant I'm going to pull
Yeah.
from the master. And it's like...
Yeah, so push means you're shoving it. I can shove it to various places, right? That's me pushing. And then a pull request is please pull. So even though I can do my own pull requests here, I mean, like I'm asking Matt to do the pull. I'm saying, hey, Matt, I'm ready. You hit the button. Okay, so I want to move to a different JIRA. So this is a JIRA SAK-32725 that Matt filed.
Are those SAK numbers auto-assigned?
They are. As soon as you make a new one, you get a new one.
They're auto-assigned, yeah.
Okay, so Matt, come on camera and talk a little bit about how you ran into this JIRA, and we'll talk about fixing it.
Okay, so I didn't run into this directly. We had a client that ran into this one. They wanted to have an LTI tool that was added through the UI and min that would be, you could add them on the template. They add the LTI tool to the template, and it would appear on all of their template created tools, like their My Workspace.
Or all course sites or whatever.
Yeah, whatever Sakai
user.
template you assign it to. So I wrote the test plan. So you install a new LTI tool. You can use some test config. There's this test config out there that's open and public. And if you added these to this $sign user site and you tried to
make a new user,
make a new user, it would actually give a stack trace. So it would be an obvious error that Dr. Chuck could see that I think was in basic LTI. So down here you could see that this was, I think, an error that came from basic LTI in this portlet's iframe. So it was like, well, there's a stack trace right here. Maybe somehow around there it can get fixed, because it kind of, and I provided some more details about how, there was a way to work around this using the old style way of defining the property. So it would just be nice if the placement worked, and I provided as many details as I could in the short amount of time I had, and it's like, well, it's the Sakai of July, so maybe this will get fixed.
So I've been like tearing through JIRAs, thinking I'm getting them done, and then this one appears in my inbox, right? And I read it, and my first reaction is, don't do that, right? Don't put LTI tools in the template. But then I'm like, why wouldn't you do that? But my first reaction as a developer is like, how could my code be wrong? I mean, I designed it, I built it. And so it took me a while to just accept the fact that I would actually do this one. right? I just was going to tell Matt, too bad, that's a bad thing, just don't do it anymore.
But telling me that is saying, you know, you fix it.
Yeah.
So.
And then I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. So, it didn't take long. I mean, a couple cups of coffee, maybe a walk or something. And I'm like, yeah, I got to fix this, right? And actually, this is just, and what Matt told me later was he didn't do this. It wasn't his crazy idea to click all these buttons. An end user did it, and it blew up.
Blew up for him.
Yeah, and it was like.
And they put a request, and we checked it out. I'm like, yeah, it's doing that. That's what's happening.
Right, and then, and so it's like, it's a thing you can do in the user interface. I mean, and it doesn't say stop. It doesn't say like don't enter, you know, one way. And so I'm like, well, I wonder if I could make this work. And then you can watch me do this one because this has a URL, a really long. This one took me, you know, probably 4 or 5 hours.
And we are a room of your end users and love us, so you fixed it.
I did. I was sort of thinking, people will click this and I want to have it blow up. And it's a clickable thing. I either got to stop it or I got to fix it. So if you watch the video, you'll see that I was curious about it. I'm like, should I fix it here when the moment the site is being copied? Or should I fix it when this thing is being launched? And I was debating with myself. And I ultimately fixed it at the moment that you click the link, because it turns out that the moment you're copying the site is way too deep in Sakai, and I didn't want to put a bunch of nasty if code in there. And I've since talked to Matt, and he likes that. So I fixed that. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, and I agree. There's tools that do it like that. There's been other patterns for this, so it's probably better if the tool is able to handle
clean itself up
a problem on its own rather than rely on the site management workflow to do it.
And so I put this up, and this is now 7 days ago, and we leave it. One of the things we leave it is we leave it until the Tuesday core team meeting, right? Unless it's trivial. If it's trivial, I just slam it in, because I can slam things in. But this one wasn't trivial, and I'd hope Matt took a look at it. But Matt was on vacation last week. I requested a review from Matt, but he was on vacation. But Earl reviewed it, and so you can see, you know, Earl was trying to teach me better Java coding, and he suggested that I change a method to be private because it wasn't the cleanest implementation. And so I made some changes, and so it turns out when these pull requests are open, I can keep working on them on my laptop and shove up new things. So if Earl says, change the typo, like when Matt said change the typo, he could have done that during review, and I could have just changed the typo and not started from scratch, just push a new thing up, and it re-looks at it. It goes, oh, automatically it sees that. And so that's what happened here.
So yeah, you can see those. He put in 2 commits here that showed, I don't have a touch thing. It showed both the original and the typo, I guess, fixed. So
yeah, and so every time you make another commit to the same branch, then it's going to recompile everything. It's going to recompile everything, and then Earl indicated that he approved it.
Yeah, he was happy with it.
So Earl's happy with it. Yeah, we got to finish up. So at this point, we are about to change the Sakai code base to put this feature in. Now, I can squash it, or Matt can squash it. Why don't you hit the button, Matt?
We can squash it. And then this is going to squash both of those commits down to 1 commit. So it's easier to merge back to 11 when we do the squash. And then it's going to get them both in, and then you can delete your branch if you like.
And that deletes the branch in Chuck, over in Chuck's copy of Sakai.
This button will.
This button right here.
Yeah.
That deletes my branch.
Your branch, yep.
Otherwise, I have to clean it up by hand. So there we go. So the last thing I'll show you, and then we'll be done, is that. Go ahead, Matt.
So if you go back to the JIRA, it should be automatically. We have some workflow in JIRA that's going to resolve this. And mark it as fixed in 12, because that's where things get fixed. And that's it. And so
that's now. It's going to get picked up in nightly.
That'll be nightly. Get picked up in the next rebuild of nightly.
So you could test this, right? You could go at 1 in the afternoon, and you could test this. And this one has a test plan because kind of Matt put it in at the beginning, so that somebody can test this, and we don't close them completely until they make it through test. And so
for that one, we want to test it and get it back to 11.
Right.
And then so that means that if we go to this,
it should have an 11 merge flag on it. If it doesn't. It doesn't yet, so we should throw one on there, and we need to get that one tested.
So this user one is important enough that Matt wants it back in 11, and so, but that won't go to 11 until it makes it through QA, and then it'll go back to 11.
And then there was this one that you said is probably a duplicate.
It's a duplicate.
So now we can close this one as a duplicate because it's fixed. But it's still open. We'll just get rid of that duplicate. To close 2 JIRA issues.
Yep. And this one here is that we just did, that I did in front of you, is still in the testing, automatic testing process, and so it hasn't finished yet. Little tiny ones, I might not wait for a review and I'll just blast them in. That's kind of a thing where if I do that too much, then they'll call me on that.
Yeah.
We call each other on that, but we also don't want to waste each other's time. So, okay.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very interesting. Watch how the sausage gets made.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, group.
All right.
Was the streaming working the whole time? Cool.
All right. So, on to the next.